What is something you frequently come across in fanfics that you know isn't true, but everyone seems to think it is? For example, I have a lot of piercings, including a tongue piercing. A lot of people write one of the characters I like, Jerry from the Magnus Archives, as having a tongue piercing. Almost every fic that has this mentions that when someone kisses him, they can very noticeably taste the metal in his mouth. Similarly, when someone has piercings on more intimate areas, their partner can taste the metal as well. None of my partners have commented on a metal taste on any of my piercings, and as someone with a tongue piercing, you cannot taste it. Is there anything y'all frequently encounter similar to this? An inconsequential detail about your anatomy, disability, career? I'm curious. Credit to Reddit user InfiniteLobsters77 for starting this thread on the fanfiction subreddit. And let's go read some answers. Not to mention, they felt the cold metal. No, dude, this thing has been embedded in my body for quite some time. It is not cold, it is body temp. This probably isn't everyone, but when a character dies and other characters are like, oh, their body was cold to the touch. How? It's been like 2 seconds. In reality, it takes something like hours for a body to cool to room temp. That wearing corsets hurt. No, they didn't lace them really tight all the time. They could be uncomfortable, but women generally didn't wear them super tight and knew how to wear them properly. People don't understand that there are different kinds of faints depending on the cause. Also, fainting can cause seizure-like spasms, so not everyone who looks like they're having a seizure is actually having a seizure, and alternatively, not all seizures consist of a person having spasms. If someone is being strangled, you start blacking out and losing vision long before you run out of air, and it happens very quickly. From restricted blood flow, I think? I don't know this from a medical standpoint, but from a far less fun, personal experience. This isn't just in fanfic, though. I remember being a kid scoffing at Hollywood movies and being like, ugh, they should have passed out by now, and they definitely shouldn't be able to see anything well enough to grab that weapon. Those scenes always go on way too long. The uselessly scrabbling at the hands on your neck instead of kicking them is on point though. Panic plus brain shutting down equals stupid. Most authors that write about someone that is socially awkward always confuses that with having anxiety and some sort of depression. It's really just being uncomfortable with talking to people and making conversations, for me. Yes, there can be some sort of idea it's due to crippling low self-esteem as well, or not having enough confidence. I'm a confident person, overconfident even, and can speak well. I simply don't enjoy it until I know the person extremely well, and even then, I need big breaks from them. Children. A 3-year-old does not have the mental capacity to hold long conversations. They aren't always happy. Fits are thrown because you give them what they want. Tantrums happen when you don't give them what they want. Tears pour like waterfalls when they don't want anything and you don't give it to them. This goes the same for kids older and younger, but I seem to find it most often in that 2 to 5-year-old range in fanfic. It's like they've never been around a child for more than 2 minutes. I'm an infant and toddler teacher, and I know way too much about childhood development to make it through a lot of baby fics. Like, either they have freshly baked babies moving around in ways they simply are not capable of, or they have whole 8-month-olds lie around like newborns. It's less one specific thing people think is true, and more this strange split between thinking babies are fully able to move almost instantly, or assuming that any child that could be called a baby is going to be stationary and incapable of all but the most basic actions. Languages. They're harder than people think. Example. She's a very smart woman. She's a dentist and speaks 4 languages fluently. If a character has never left their country, hasn't taken classes, or has no close ties to native speakers, it's unlikely they speak multiple languages fluently. I see this all the time in fanfics and regular fiction. People love to use the shortcut polyglot equals smart, but it's not that simple. Learning languages from scratch is not easy and not something that can be mastered on the side. Fevers. In the majority of cases, a fever below 104 does not mean someone needs to go to the hospital, unless it's been persistent, there are pre-existing health issues, or there are other, more worrying symptoms. I've seen more than a few fics where full-grown adults with medical experience freak out over a temp of like 101.2. And, some sick fics are so dramatic. Character A gets a fever, and then suddenly there's fainting, heart rate slowing, lying limp in B's arms. Okay, wow, now hold up. Chloroform reg isn't the instant knockout solution it's portrayed as in movies. It's also very deadly if you don't get the dosage exactly right. Silencers make guns silent. No, they don't. The actual name of the thing is suppressor, and it doesn't silence the gun. It suppresses the gratingly loud bang of a gun to something more tolerable. It's still loud. If you used a suppressed gun in a crowd of people, it would still be heard. It would really be heard in a quiet or silent space. Gun stuff in general is often wrong in fics. If I had a nickel for every time a fic author wrote clip when it was actually a magazine, I could afford ammo even in this current economy. If a character gets shot, they do not need to get the bullet out. Really, barring very specific and unusual circumstances, fishing around in someone's deep open gunshot wound using your gross unwashed hands is almost always going to do more harm than good. Relatedly, removing a blade after receiving a stab wound is also a bad idea. Of course, some of this can be justified if you're dealing with historical settings, wacky fantasy magic, or sci-fi technology, etc. But if your character is injured by a normal bullet or knife, impromptu back alley removal surgery is pretty much never a good idea. Broken bones not hurting as soon as they're wrapped in a cast. I'm not saying break your arm and find out yourself, but someone you know has definitely broken something at some point. Yeah, the pain eases up, but it does not vanish. For a while, I was reading a lot of fics where people's glasses just kind of fell off when they looked down. Wait, that doesn't happen to people? My glasses slip a lot when I look down, and they have fallen off before because of it. Though I suppose if it happens all the time, it doesn't make much sense. So many people have no idea what goes into garment construction. There is no going down to Erebor Walmart to pick up a new set of clothes, and while there are some tricks with lacing, standard sizes are very new. In pre-industrial societies, clothing was very expensive because going from plant or sheep to finished garment took a lot of work. There was one fic where gender-swapped Bilbo embroidered a decorative border on a cloak in one evening by campfire light after the day's travels. It was hilarious. I can't do it that fast on my machine. Okay, not necessarily untrue, but I wish English-speaking authors would stop writing or ya after Korean names. Yes, it's common, but it's also common to just say the name without anything attached. Maybe it's just me, but it looks weird when I see those two in every piece of dialogue. I'll piggyback on this to say, people born in the same year are all the same age in Korea. If character A is younger than character B by 3 months, but they're born in the same year, character A is not going to call character B hyung. As someone who likes to read about various fantasy creatures, many basic and less basic animal facts are not commonly known. For example, 99% of authors seem to think water enters and exits the gills of a fish. No, it enters the mouth and exits the gills. Also, swim bladders exist. Also, snakes don't have eyelids, so they don't blink. So stop making snake characters wink and shit. Working in a bookshop is not fun, and you can't spend your whole day talking to customers. In fact, most customers won't even speak with you other than saying hello and bye. And if they ask for recommendations, they don't want a list of all your favorite books, And you won't swap recommendations for 2 hours and become best friends after that. People get things wrong about cruises all the time. This happens not just in fanfic, but also original fiction. For example, cruises have strict rules about minors. I can tell people aren't aware of these when they have minors going on cruises by themselves, or even working on cruises. The college students and the drinking. The fics where the main characters drink to the point of a hangover every other day, yet somehow still manage to get to class, do their homework, and become a doctor or lawyer. Yeah, I think most of us who went to college saw those students who drank all the time. They didn't graduate. Drinking to the point of blackout drunk all the time is not cool. People who write frequent drug users often go to the pupils blown wide / very dilated route, when some drugs actually have the opposite effect and have the pupils going smaller instead. I don't know all of them, but heroin and morphine and its derivatives tend to give what's commonly referred to as pinpoint pupils and not dilated ones. They often confuse the effects of stimulants, like heroin and crack, with depressants, like alcohol and weed. Pupils getting blown so wide that the colored part of your eye is like a small ring around them. Yeah, they can get bigger when someone's turned on, but I think if someone's pupils start looking like how a cat's do, then they probably have a medical thing going on. On a similar note, I always think of my cats having wide pupils and doing the butt wiggle whenever I see pupils are blown wide, so it kind of breaks my immersion. The average labor takes 12 to 24 hours. Active labor, as in fully dilated and hurting like nothing else on Earth, usually takes 6 to 8 hours. The contractions usually start out more subtle and can go on for days before, and the pain increases microscopically but steadily for hours and hours. Now, ultra-fast labors exist, of course, but they are usually rare, especially for first-timers. Now, in Omegaverse and similar biological fiction, I'm sure other rules apply. Also, if you knock someone unconscious, then they are 100% concussed. They probably won't stay conveniently knocked out for the time it takes to administrate a neat kidnapping. What they will do is throw up a lot. I come from a family of veterans. I was an army brat with both parents being ex-military. Most of my family was in some branch or another. You can really tell when people don't know how PTSD affects a vet specifically. The one fic that I found that really hit home was when a character freaked out in the grocery store because it was so overwhelming. The noises, the crowds, the lights, the amount of choice, and they froze up. On a sillier note, I'm a forensic accountant, and you'd be amazed how many people think that accountants can do every kind of accounting perfectly without referencing back to their textbooks from school. That you can't sleep with a concussion, that's just a medical old wives' tale. And that either all migraines have an aura, or that they're just headaches. Source: I have been a chronic migraine sufferer for 10 years. This is a bit more specific, but a lot of Americans seem to think that the emergency number in other countries is 911. And I think it is in some, but for the majority, it isn't. Like, I get severe whiplash when I'm reading a fic set in the UK and the characters suddenly need to call 911, or talk about needing to pay for their medical care or ambulance. I feel like a lot of people tend to underestimate how long certain injuries take to heal. Like, for example, I once fainted and accidentally bit through my lip. People usually portray these injuries as really minor, like, poof, gone in 3 days. But I couldn't eat without it being incredibly painful, I couldn't speak properly, and my lip returned to normal in about 3 weeks later. And even though it's been almost 3 years, I still have a barely noticeable bump in that spot, and a scar on the inside of it. So, yeah, a cut or bitten through lip is a bigger complication than it sounds like. I read a lot of terminal illness fics, and a notable number of authors who write cancer fics write about the person with cancer just suddenly going bald after receiving chemo. In my experience, people with cancer usually have hair fall off after the first few sessions. More importantly, their hair falls out in patches, but not everything falls off. Most who go bald because they choose to shave their head just because the whole process of watching your hair fall off in patches is traumatizing. And because bald patches ain't a good look either. Oh, also, farms. Farming, especially small scale, is grinding endless work in the mud and cold and rain and heat. It's brutally hard work. Livestock and machinery can all kill you very quickly. You're forced to do dangerous stuff out of necessity, like going out in a lightning storm to fix a fence and get the cows back in. Animals have to be castrated, doctored, put down, and it's never pleasant. Milking cows sometimes involves being kicked hard by shitty feet. Milking cows also sometimes involves squeezing bloody, pussy milk out of an infected udder. You'll get bitten, kicked, pissed on, shitted on, chased. I had a pig try to go over my head once. My fiance was headbutted by a sheep and had a concussion. And nobody cares if you're sick or have a fever. Those animals have got needs. Milking never stops. Twice a day, every day. I could go on, but it's rare I see a farm in a fic that touches on any of the less picturesque parts of the life. Legal disclaimers. You see them less nowadays, but the disclaimers people sometimes put on their fics about not owning the characters, settings, whatever, and giving credit to the IP owner, do not in any way protect the author from a legal challenge, and would likely hurt the author if sued for copyright infringement, because by writing it, they've already conceded that they don't have a right to use those IP elements. It doesn't happen quite as often now as it used to, but the freshness seal thing, as if a woman who is a virgin is actually a Pringles tube in disguise. Barring some kind of medical issue, that's not how the human body works. Fic writers be out here thinking a woman's first time is like stabbing a straw through a Capri Sun and making a hole. Big thank you to my Patreon members, my little ruse. Kuski55, Fallen Vexen, Sam, Donka42, I Am a Noodle, John Huang, Fantastic Wreck, Laser Scorpio, Night Avenger, Mintara, Ember, Somnophobic Danny, Savage Otters, and Cosmiz. Thank you all so much for your extra support, it means the world to me. I appreciate it very much, thank you for being here, and I hope you guys are doing well lately. The same goes to my YouTube channel members, my mini ruse, AD, Taylor Thompson, Fox Star Killer, and this person 10. Thank you so much for your extra support. I'm so glad to have you be part of my channel. Thank you for your kindness, and I hope you guys are doing great. And the same goes to everyone else who watched. Thank you for watching. Let me know your own answers to this question. What's something that you have knowledge on that you see other people misrepresenting in their fiction? We can all help educate each other. But also remember, fiction is fiction, so sometimes it's okay to make things inaccurate for the sake of a story, right? I think we can all agree on that sometimes. But anyway, thank you again for watching. I hope you guys are doing great. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, have a great week.